Daniel Harper had seen many strange worlds during his years with Earth's Galactic Defense Corps. He had walked on planets made of ice and planets covered in endless deserts. But nothing had prepared him for Volanta Prime. The world was beautiful in a cold and perfect way. Crystal towers rose toward the purple sky. Everything was clean and ordered. The Volanthi people moved through their cities with grace that made humans look clumsy. Their skin was deep purple, almost black, and their eyes glowed with soft golden light. They were tall and thin, and they looked at humans the way a noble might look at a servant. Daniel did not mind. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. His job was simple: protect Ambassador Kevin Shaw during the trade talks. Stand still. Look strong. Say nothing. The negotiations were held in the Imperial Palace. The building was made of white crystal that sang when the wind touched it. Daniel stood at the edge of the great hall while the ambassador spoke with Volanthi officials. He kept his face blank and his eyes open. That was when he first saw her. She sat alone at the far end of the hall, while other members of the royal family occupied golden chairs near the emperor's throne. This one sat on a simple seat in the shadows. Her skin was not deep purple like the others. It was pale violet, almost lavender. She kept her head down and her hands folded in her lap. Daniel watched her for a moment. She was beautiful, but there was something broken in the way she held herself. Something defeated. A Volanthi guard noticed Daniel looking and stepped closer. The guard's voice was a hiss. "That is Princess Lyron. Do not waste your attention on her. She is cursed." Daniel said nothing. He returned his gaze to the ambassador. The trade talks continued for 3 days. During that time, Daniel learned more about Volanthi society than he had wanted to know. They valued blood purity above everything. The color of one's skin determined one's worth. The royal family was supposed to have the darkest purple skin of all. Lyrane's pale color was seen as a sign of weakness. Some said it was a punishment from the gods. Others said her mother had been unfaithful. Whatever the reason, the princess had been rejected since the day she was born. On the 4th night, the emperor hosted a great feast to celebrate the progress of negotiations. Daniel stood along the wall with other guards while the Volanthi ate and drank. Lyran sat at the end of a long table, far from her family. No one spoke to her. No one looked at her. She ate in silence, her eyes fixed on her plate. Then Prince Tavros stood up. He was the eldest son of the emperor. His skin was so dark it seemed to swallow light. He was tall and cool, and when he smiled, there was no warmth in it. "Let us have entertainment," Tavros said. His voice carried through the hall. "Sister, come forward." Lyrane's hands trembled. She stood slowly and walked toward her brother. Every eye in the room watched her. "The humans want to know about our customs," Tavros said. He looked at Ambassador Shaw with a false smile. "Let me show them how we treat those who bring shame to our blood." He picked up a cup of dark wine and poured it over Lyrane's head. The liquid ran down her face and stained her white gown. She did not move. She did not speak. She simply stood there, dripping, while the court laughed. Daniel's hands formed fists at his sides. He wanted to step forward. He wanted to put himself between the princess and her brother. But he was a soldier. He had orders. He could not interfere. The laughter died down. Lyran turned to walk back to her seat. As she passed Daniel's position, her foot caught on a loose tile. She stumbled, and a small crystal pendant fell from her neck and rolled across the floor. No one moved to help her. The Volanthi guards looked away. The nobles pretended not to see. Daniel bent down and picked up the pendant. He held it out to her. Lyran stared at him. Her golden eyes were wide with shock. For a moment, she did not move. Then, slowly, she reached out and took the pendant from his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was soft, barely a breath. Daniel nodded once. That was all. He returned to his position against the wall, but Prince Tavros had seen the exchange. His golden eyes narrowed, and his smile faded. The feast ended late. Daniel was walking back to the human embassy when he heard voices in the side corridor. He stopped and pressed himself against the wall, listening. The exile ship leaves in 3 days. It was a guard's voice. And the accident? Another guard. Prince Tavros has arranged everything. The ship will suffer engine failure in deep space. No survivors. The Emperor approves? The Emperor does not need to know. He wants her gone. He does not care how it happens. The guards walked away, their footsteps fading into silence. Daniel stood in the darkness for a long time. His heart beat hard in his chest. He thought about protocol. He thought about orders. He thought about the woman with lavender skin who had whispered thank you, as if no one had ever shown her kindness before. He thought about what kind of man he wanted to be. When he finally moved, his decision was made. He did not know how he would do it. He did not know what it would cost him. But he knew one thing with perfect clarity. He would not let Lyran die. The crystal towers of Volanthi Prime glowed in the moonlight as Daniel walked back to the embassy. Somewhere in the palace, a princess supped without knowing that her brother planned to kill her. And somewhere in his heart, a human soldier had already started to plan. He was going to save her, whatever it took. Daniel did not sleep that night. He lay on his bed in the human embassy and stared at the ceiling. The words of the guards played over and over in his mind. Engine failure. No survivors. 3 days. When morning came, he went to see Commander Lisa Moore. She was a strong woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had served in the Defense Corps for 30 years. She listened as Daniel told her what he had heard. When he finished, her face was hard. You want to interfere in Volanthi politics, she said. It was not a question. I want to stop a murder. She is not human, Harper. She's not our responsibility. She is a person. That makes her my responsibility. Commander Moore leaned back in her chair. She studied Daniel for a long moment. If you do this, you could destroy everything. The trade deal. The alliance. Years of work. I know. You could be court-martialed. Imprisoned. Your career would be over. I know that too. The commander was quiet. Then she sighed. I cannot help you officially, but I will not stop you either. Whatever you do alone. Do you understand? Daniel nodded. I understand. He left her office and walked into the palace gardens. The gardens were filled with strange flowers that glowed in the daylight. Paths made of white stone wound between pools of clear water. It was peaceful here. Quiet. Daniel found Lyran sitting beside a small fountain. She was alone except for a young handmaiden who stood a short distance away. The handmaiden watched Daniel approach with fearful eyes. Lyran looked up. When she saw Daniel, surprise crossed her face. The human guard. My name is Daniel Harper. Why are you here? Daniel sat on the edge of the fountain. He spoke quietly so only she could hear. I need to tell you something. Your brother plans to kill you. Lyrane's face did not change. She looked down at the water. I know. Daniel had expected shock, fear, anger. He had not expected this calm acceptance. You know? I have known since I was a child that my family wants me dead. My existence shames them. Every day I live is an insult to their blood. She touched the water with her fingers. I thought exile might be enough for them. I was wrong. Then we need to get you out of here. Now she looked at him. Her golden eyes searched his face. Why would you help me? You do not know me. I am nothing to you. Daniel thought about the question. He thought about duty and honor and all the things they taught soldiers. But the real answer was simpler than that. Because it is the right thing to do. Lyran stared at him. In her world, no one did anything because it was right. Power was all that mattered. Strength was all that counted. Kindness was weakness. You are strange, she said finally. All humans are strange. Maybe. But this strange human is offering you a chance to live. Will you take it? The handmaiden stepped closer. Her name was Sereth, and she had served Lyran since they were both children. Princess, this could be a trap. If I wanted to trap her, I would not warn her about the assassination, Daniel said. Sereth looked at Lyran. What do you want to do? Lyran was quiet for a long time. She watched the water in the fountain. She thought about her life in the palace. The years of silence. The years of shame. The years of waiting to die. I want to live, she whispered. For the first time, I think I truly want to live. Daniel nodded. Then here is what we will do. He explained his plan. The exile ship would launch in 3 days. Daniel would volunteer to be part of the security escort. When the ship was in transit, he would create a distraction. A fake reactor warning. Something that would force an evacuation. In the chaos, he would reach Lyran and get her to an escape pod. A human shuttle would be waiting nearby. They would escape to human-controlled space before anyone knew what had happened. The transport would be destroyed as planned, and everyone would think Lyran was dead. It is dangerous, Sarah said. Yes, Daniel agreed. But it is the only way. Lyran looked at him. You would risk your life for me. Why? Because where I come from, we protect people who cannot protect themselves. It is not about what you can give me. It is about what is right. She did not understand. He could see it in her eyes. But she wanted to. For the first time in her life, someone was showing her that another way existed. I will trust you, Daniel Harper, she said. I do not know why, but I will trust you. They spent the next hour working out the details. Sereth would help from inside the palace. She knew which guards could be bribed and which ones were loyal to Tavros. Daniel would handle the rest. When it was time to leave, Daniel stood. 3 days. Be ready. I will be ready. He turned to walk away. Her voice stopped him. Daniel. He looked back. No one has ever stood beside me before. Whatever happens, I want you to know that I am grateful. Daniel smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Save your thanks for when we are safe. He walked out of the gardens without looking back. His heart was calm. His mind was clear. He had a mission now. A purpose. But neither of them knew that they had been watched. In the shadows of the garden. One of Prince Tavros's spies had seen everything. Heard everything. And now he was walking quickly toward the palace to tell his master what the human soldier was planning. The game had changed. And the danger had just become much greater. The exile transport was a gray ship with no windows. It was built to carry prisoners, not passengers. Lyran walked up the boarding ramp with her head down and her hands bound in front of her. 2 guards walked behind her. They did not speak. Daniel watched from across the landing platform. He wore the uniform of a security escort. His weapon hung at his side. His heart beat steady and slow. The plan was simple. Wait until the ship was away from the planet. Trigger the reactor warning. Reach Lyran in the confusion. Get to the escape pods. But something felt wrong. There were too many guards. The exile transport should have carried 4 guards at most. Daniel counted 12. They stood at every door, every corridor junction. Their eyes moved constantly, watching everything. Tavros knew. Daniel's hand moved toward his weapon, then stopped. If he acted now, he would die. Lyran would die. They would fail before they even started. He needed a new plan. The transport lifted off. The planet fell away beneath them. Stars appeared in the viewports as they left the atmosphere. Daniel stood at his post near the cargo bay and waited. An hour passed. Then, too, one of the Volante guards approached him. The guard's eyes glowed with cold light. "Human, the prince sends a message." Daniel kept his face blank. "What message?" "He knows what you planned. He wanted you to know that the princess will die slowly, and you will watch." The guard smiled. Then he turned and walked away. Daniel stood very still. His mind worked through the options. The ship was full of enemies. He was one man against 12. The odds were impossible, but impossible had never stopped him. Before he moved. His first punch caught the nearest guard in the throat. The Volante went down without a sound. Daniel took his weapon and fired at the second guard before the first hit the floor. Alarms screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed. Daniel ran. The Volante were fast, but Daniel had trained for close combat his entire life. He ducked under a blade and drove his elbow into a guard's face. He caught another by the arm and threw him into the wall. He did not think. He did not hesitate. He simply moved, and men fell before him. A blade cut his shoulder. He ignored the pain. Blood ran down his arm. He kept fighting. 3 guards blocked the corridor ahead. Daniel charged them. He took a hit to his ribs that cracked bone. He broke one guard's knee with a kick. He shot another at point-blank range. The third he killed with his hands. The door to the prisoner hold was ahead. It was locked. Daniel fired at the control panel until it sparked and died. The door slid open. Lyran stood in the center of a small cell. Her eyes went wide when she saw him. Blood covered his face and arms. His uniform was torn. It looked like death itself. "Come with me," he said. She did not hesitate. She ran to him. They moved through the ship together. Daniel led the way, weapon raised. Lyran stayed close behind him. She had never seen violence like this before. She had never seen a man fight like this before. The humans were not the weak species her people believed them to be. This man was a storm wrapped in flesh. More guards appeared. Daniel killed them. He was wounded again, a cut across his leg that made him limp. He did not slow down. "The escape pods are ahead," he said. His voice was calm. "When we reach them, you get inside. Do not wait for me. I will not leave you. You will do what I tell you." They reached the pod bay. 4 guards waited there. Daniel pushed Lyran behind a support pillar and stepped into the open. "Come on, men," he said. The guards attacked. Daniel met them with fists and fury. He was slowing now. The wounds were taking their toll. But he would not fall. Not yet. Not until she was safe. The last guard fell. Daniel stumbled. His hand pressed against a wound in his side. When he lifted it, his palm was red. "Now," he said. "Into the pod." Lyran ran to the nearest pod. The hatch opened. She climbed inside, then turned back. "You have to come with me. I am right behind you." He was not. He was leaning against the wall, trying to stay on his feet. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. More guards were coming. Daniel limped to the pod. Every step was agony. He fell into the small space beside Lyran. His fingers found the launch control. He pressed it. The pod shot away from the transport. Through the tiny viewport, they watched the ship grow smaller. Then it exploded. The blast wave rocked their pod. Lyran screamed. Daniel held her, shielding her with his body as debris struck the hull. Then it was over. They were floating in the darkness of space. The transport was gone. Everyone aboard was dead. "They think you are dead now," Daniel said. His voice was weak. "You are free." A light appeared in the distance. A human shuttle, waiting exactly where it was supposed to be. It moved toward them, and Lyran felt something she had never felt before. Hope. She looked at Daniel. He was barely conscious. His wounds were terrible. He had nearly died to save her. Why? She asked. Why would you do this for me? He opened his eyes. Despite the pain, he smiled. Because you matter, he said. Every life matters. My people taught me that. The shuttle reached them. The pod's hatch opened. Human hands pulled them aboard. Medical officers rushed to treat Daniel's wounds. Lyra watched them work. Tears ran down her face. She had been wrong about humans. She had been wrong about everything. In the darkness of space, a rejected princess had found something she never expected. She had found someone who thought she was worth saving. The human vessel Horizon's Edge was not beautiful like the crystal towers of Volanti Prime. It was made of gray metal and harsh lights. The corridors were narrow. The air smelled of recycled oxygen. But to Lyran, it was the most wonderful place she had ever been. Because here, no one looked at her with disgust. No one whispered curses behind her back. The humans saw her pale violet skin and thought nothing of it. They smiled at her. They asked how she was feeling. They treated her like a person. It was strange. It was confusing. It was beautiful. Daniel spent 2 weeks in the medical bay. His wounds were severe. The doctors said it was a miracle he had survived. Lyram visited him every day. She sat beside his bed and talked to him, even when he was too weak to respond. I do not understand your people, she told him one day. On my world, the strong take from the weak. That is how it has always been. But you almost died to save someone you did not know. How can that be? Daniel opened his eyes. The color was coming back to his face. On Earth, we have a saying. The measure of a person is how they treat those who can do nothing for them. That is a strange saying. Maybe, but it is what we believe. Commander Lisa Moore came to visit when Daniel was strong enough to sit up. Her face was serious, but her eyes were kind. You caused a diplomatic incident, she said. The Volanti are furious. They believe their princess died in an accident, but there are questions. Questions? How did a human security escort end up on an escape pod that launched before the explosion? The Emperor is suspicious. Daniel nodded. What happens now? For now, nothing. Ambassador Shaw has denied any involvement. He said you acted alone, against orders. That gives us some cover. She paused. But if they discover she is alive, everything changes. Lyran stepped forward. I will not let Daniel suffer for saving me. If I must surrender to protect him, I will. Commander Moore looked at her. There was surprise in her eyes, and something like respect. That will not be necessary. Not yet. The days passed. Daniel healed. Lyran learned about humans. She learned that they came from a small blue planet called Earth, a world of extreme heat and cold, violent storms and dangerous animals. The galaxy called it a death world. The creatures that evolved there were tough beyond reason. She learned that humans had once been alone in the universe. When they finally reached the stars, other species had dismissed them as primitive, weak, unimportant, but humans had proven them wrong. Through sheer stubborn determination, they had built an empire that stretched across 100 worlds. She learned that humans valued strange things: family, friendship, love. They formed bonds with people who were not their blood. They adopted children who were not their own. They died for causes that brought them no profit. It made no sense. It was wonderful. One evening, Daniel found Lyran standing at a viewport, watching the stars. You seem troubled, he said. I am thinking about my home, about my family. She turned to look at him. They never loved me. I know that now, but it still hurts. Daniel stood beside her. The family you are born into is not always the family you keep. Sometimes you have to find a new one. Is that what humans do? Sometimes. The best families are the ones we choose. Lyran thought about that. She thought about Sareth, who had risked everything to help her. She thought about Daniel, who had nearly died for her. She thought about Commander Moore and the crew of this ship, who had welcomed her without question. Maybe she already had a new family. Maybe she just had not seen it yet. The peace did not last. 3 weeks after their escape, a message arrived. Prince Tavros had discovered the truth. A spy at the neutral station, where they had stopped for supplies, had recognized Lyran. Word had reached Volanthi Prime. The princess was alive. And Tavros wanted her back. He sent a message to every human outpost in the sector. Return the traitor Lyran Vershith to Volanthi custody within 10 days. Failure to comply will be considered an act of war. The Galactic Council reviewed the demand. They ruled that the dispute was between humans and Volanthi. They would not interfere. Human leadership contacted Commander Moore. They ordered her to bring Lyran to a neutral station, where she would be transferred to Volanthi custody. Daniel was in the commander's office when the order came. His face went dark. "No," he said. "It is not your decision to make," Commander Moore said quietly. "She is under our protection. We do not surrender people to be murdered. If we refuse, there will be war. Millions could die. And if we give her up, we prove that human protection means nothing. Every species in the galaxy will know that we abandon our own when the cost gets too high." The commander was silent. Daniel stepped forward. "Let me speak to our leaders. Let me make the case, please." She studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You have one chance. Make it count." Daniel addressed the Human Council that night. His words were broadcast to every human ship and station in the sector. Lyran came to us for help. She trusted us. If we betray that trust, we betray everything we stand for. I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And I believe most humans feel the same. The response was immediate. Messages flooded in from across human space. Soldiers volunteered to stand with the horizon's edge. Civilians demanded that their leaders show courage. When the vote was counted, the answer was clear. Humanity would not surrender the princess. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The Volanthi war fleet arrived at the neutral station on the 10th day. 50 ships against the 12 human vessels that had gathered to protect Lyran. The numbers were not even close. Prince Tavros stood on the bridge of his flagship. His dark purple skin seemed to glow with satisfaction. He had come to crush the humans and reclaim his sister. When he was finished, the galaxy would know that no one defied Volanthi. Royalty. Daniel stood on the observation deck of the horizon's edge. He watched the enemy ships take position around the station. Beside him, Lyran trembled. "I cannot let people die for me," she said. "I am not worth this." "You are worth exactly this," Daniel replied. "And you need to stop believing the lies your family told you. If I surrender, the fighting stops. If you surrender, you die. And everything we stand for dies with you." He turned to face her. "Lyran, your life has value. Not because of your blood or your title, because you are you. The moment we start trading lives to avoid trouble, we become no better than them." Tears ran down her face. "I am afraid." "So am I, but courage is not about feeling no fear. It is about doing what is right, even when you are terrified." A transmission came through from the Volanthi flagship. Prince Tavros demanded to speak with whoever was in command. Commander Moore accepted the call. Tavros appeared on the main screen. His golden eyes burned with contempt. "This is your final chance, humans. Give me the traitor, and you may leave in peace. Refuse, and I will destroy every ship you have." Commander Moore's voice was steady. The woman you call a traitor came to us seeking protection. We do not abandon those who trust us. She is not one of you. She is Velanthi. She belongs to us. She belongs to herself. That is a concept your people seem to struggle with. Tavros's face twisted with rage. You will regret those words. The transmission ended. The Velanthi ships began to power their weapons. Daniel stepped forward. Commander, request permission to send a message to the prince. Moore looked at him. What are you planning? Something stupid. Something human. She almost smiled. Permission granted. Daniel sent his message. A few minutes later, Tavros appeared on the screen again. His eyes narrowed when he saw the human soldier. You are the one who stole my sister. I remember you. And I remember you pouring wine on a woman who could not fight back. Very brave. Tavros hissed. Choose your words carefully, human. I could destroy you with a thought. Maybe. Or maybe you could prove your courage another way. Daniel's voice was calm and clear. I challenge you to single combat. You and me. No weapons but our hands. Winner takes all. The bridge went silent. Even Commander Moore stared at Daniel in shock. Tavros laughed. You challenge me? A Velanthi prince? I am stronger than you. Faster than you. You would not last 10 seconds. Then you have nothing to lose. Unless you are afraid. The word hung in the air. Afraid. For a Velanthi prince to refuse a challenge from an inferior species would be the greatest shame imaginable. Tavros's eyes burned. Very well, human. I accept. We will meet on the station. And when I kill you, I will take my sister and burn your ships to ash. The transmission ended. Commander Moore grabbed Daniel's arm. Have you lost your mind? He will kill you. Maybe. But if I win, his fleet has to leave. Velanthi law demands it. And if you lose? Daniel did not answer. He did not need to. 1 hour later, Daniel and Tavros stood in the main hall of the neutral station. Both sides had gathered to watch. The Velanthi soldiers stood on one side. Human soldiers stood on the other. In the middle, an empty space waited. Lyra N stood with the humans. Her hands were clasped tight. Her heart pounded in her chest. Tavros removed his cloak. His body was lean and muscular. He moved with the grace of a predator. Any last words, human? Daniel cracked his neck. Just one. You made a mistake when you hurt her. The fight began. Tavros was fast. Faster than anything Daniel had ever faced. His fists were blurs. His kicks came from angles that should have been impossible. In the first 10 seconds, he struck Daniel 6 times. Daniel fell back. Blood poured from his nose. His ribs screamed with pain. But he did not fall. He had fought wounded before. He had trained for this his entire life. Humans were not the fastest species. They were not the strongest. But they had something no other species had. They did not know when to quit. Daniel blocked a kick. He took a punch to the jaw and stayed on his feet. He grabbed Tavros's arm and twisted. The prince screamed. They fought for 5 minutes. 10, 15. Tavros was faster, but he was tiring. He had never faced an opponent who refused to go down. Every time he knocked Daniel back, the human rose again. Every time he thought victory was close, Daniel found another reserve of strength. Why will you not fall? Tavros screamed. Daniel spat blood. Because she is worth fighting for. Because every person is worth fighting for. That is something you will never understand. He charged. The final exchange was brutal. Tavros struck Daniel in the chest. Daniel took the hit and drove his elbow into the prince's throat. Tavros stumbled. Daniel grabbed him by the head and brought his knee up. The prince collapsed. Daniel stood over him, swaying, barely conscious. But he stood. The Velanthi soldiers stared in disbelief. Their prince lay defeated at the feet of a human. "It is done," Daniel said. His voice echoed through the silent hall. "By your own laws, you must withdraw." No one moved. Then, slowly, the Volanthi began to retreat. They lifted their prince and carried him back to his ship. One by one, the war fleet turned and departed. Daniel's legs gave out. He fell to his knees. Lyra ran to him. She caught him before he hit the floor. "You fool," she whispered. "You beautiful, stubborn fool." He smiled up at her. "We won. You almost died. Worth it." She held him close. Around them, human soldiers cheered. The impossible had happened. One man had stood against an empire, and in the weeks that followed, everything changed. The Galactic Council took notice of what had happened. The Volanthi Emperor, shamed by his son's defeat, quietly declared that Lyra was no longer wanted. She was free to live wherever she chose. She chose to stay with the humans. Lyra became a cultural liaison, helping other species understand humanity. She used her own experience to show others that kindness was not weakness, that protecting the vulnerable was the highest form of strength. And Daniel stayed by her side. On quiet evenings, they stood together at the viewports and watched the stars. Two people from different worlds who had found something worth fighting for. "Thank you," Lyra said one night, "for standing beside me when no one else would." Daniel took her hand. "That is what family does." She leaned against him. For the first time in her life, she was not afraid. She was not ashamed. She was home.